Hey guys, and welcome back to Pizza Rob. This is the first scripted video on this channel, and for good reason. Today, I'm going to be talking about my experience with playing Metroid Prime from start to completion, and how surprised I was with it as a person who had never played a Metroid game prior to this. Earlier this year, I had gotten a Nintendo gift card for my little brother who couldn't use it himself due to him not having an account, and I had about $40 to spend with it. After looking on the eShop for titles I could purchase, I decided on Super Mario RPG, as it was discounted during that time. Unfortunately, even with the gold points I had, I was just short of being able to purchase it. So, I went looking a bit more, and came across Metroid Prime Remastered. Unlike Mario RPG, it was right at the $40 mark, and since I'd heard good things about the game, I thought why not try it out? With the few gold points I had just enough to purchase it, so I did. Then, I began playing. Just playing through the intro part of the game where you're on a spaceship, I was surprised by how much I was already enjoying the game. The controls felt great, and the different mechanics were cool too, being able to scan things to obtain more info on them, and being able to morph into a ball to get into certain places. I would like to clarify real quick that I used the modern twin-stick control scheme during my playthrough, rather than the original control method, as that's what it was set to by default. After defeating the boss and losing most of the cool abilities I had, I escaped the ship and landed on a planet. When I first landed on this planet, I'd assumed for some reason that the game would take me to multiple planets. Maybe that's because that's what a normal game would do to showcase different environments, though I'd come to find out that Metroid Prime was certainly not a normal game, and that was a good thing. The basic gist of Metroid Prime is to find 12 Chozo artifacts that you need in order to complete the game. This may sound simple, but throughout the game, you'll also need to collect the upgrades that you lost while on the ship in order to access these artifacts, and these are hidden throughout the planet. Oh, and if you're curious what a Chozo is, they're the ancient bird-like species that formerly resided on this planet. They play an important part in the lore of this game. I want to start by saying that this game looks great, and like I mentioned before, I'm playing the remastered version of this game, which is still the GameCube game, though with new models and textures, and wow does it show. I honestly cannot recall any part of this game looking bad. It was a delight to look at throughout. Speaking of which, the environments are also a strong suit. They're varied in their aesthetics, with things such as a sandy wasteland, to an underground lava area, to an icy world. And like I said before, these are all on the same planet, and each are a sizable area in their own right, making for a pretty sizable area, overall, to explore. I'll admit that I did wish there was a bit more to explore, though I'm gonna chalk that up to this being a GameCube game, so it couldn't be too big. Nonetheless, there was still quite a bit to explore, so let's discuss that. Nice, sizable environments are definitely fun to explore, but that's only half the fun. The other half comes in what there is to find, and boy does Metroid Prime not disappoint on that front. Oftentimes, you'll come across doors or areas that you're unable to access, and if you scan them, you'll figure out that you need a specific upgrade in order to access them. These will usually lead to further progression in the game, or a different type of upgrade, an optional one. The first is tank upgrades, which adds 100 HP to your health. For context, you start the game off with only one tank that's worth 100 HP. Instead of adding the HP for a larger number though, you'll simply swap to another tank once you've lost 100 HP, which continues until you've run out of tanks, where you'll then receive a game over. I'll get more into that aspect of the game later, but anyways, the other upgrade is a missile upgrade, which adds 5 extra spaces for missiles. Again, for context, you start out with 5 spaces for missiles, and these are a type of ammo that is stronger than your regular blaster, and are actually required to defeat certain enemies, as well as open certain doors. While these upgrades are optional, and you'll almost certainly not get all of them unless you go out of your way to do so, they're still a fun upgrade to come by, as it makes you stronger and able to get through areas easier. Speaking of which, as you progress through the game, you'll come across creatures that live on this planet, which by the way is called Talon 4. There's also bosses that you'll come across which you'll need to defeat, as they not only allow you to progress through the game, but will often also give you a new, major upgrade. As with most games, these creatures and bosses get stronger as the game progresses, with it all culminating in the final boss. But we're getting ahead of ourselves here. I'll be honest and say that overall, this game's enemies and bosses aren't that hard, and I think that's largely due to the dodging mechanic you have, where you can strafe when you're logged on to an enemy. This usually makes it easy to dodge any enemy's attacks, though that doesn't mean every boss in this game is a pushover. There were still a few times I died, and the way this game works, when you die, you go back to the last save point, which are located in rooms scattered throughout this world. When you save at these places, you're healed back up to maximum health. These save points are also often located close to where you'll fight a boss, so it's easy to go back and try again. And like I said before, this typically will only happen a few times before you understand what the boss is going to do, and how to defeat it. Sometimes, your most recent major upgrade you've obtained will also play a part in how to defeat the boss. Even though these bosses aren't always that hard, I still found them fun and satisfying to beat, especially when they give you a major upgrade after defeating them. The fun part here is that you can go back after getting a major upgrade and find a specific area that you didn't have access to before, but now that you've got the new upgrade, you do. This is especially fun when you gain access to one of a few different blaster types in the game, as they each have different properties that will do different things to the enemies. The red blaster was especially a fun one to use, as it's the final one you get, and is incredibly OP, which makes sense as you're fairly close to the end of the game once you get it, so you can just blast through enemies as you obtain the artifacts that you need. You'll also find that when you explore older areas again as you get farther into the game, there will be stronger enemies that pop up, which include the space pirates. Oh yeah, about those guys. Basically, the reason the Chozo are no longer around is because a meteor hit Talon 4, which contaminated the planet with something called Phazon, which ultimately killed them off. There's an intelligent species that does reside on this planet though, and those are the space pirates. These guys are basically trying to use Phazon in order to become stronger, and they also try to imitate the abilities you have, such as your different blaster types. They're definitely the harder enemies to fight in the game, as they're kinda tanky, and the ones that imitate your different blaster types are the most difficult, as they have to be killed with the exact blaster type they use. Anyways, once you get the 12 Chozo artifacts, you'll run into Meta Ridley, who you do actually get a glimpse of way earlier in the game, well before you fight him. Once you defeat him, you get to see a creature that was contained in the meteor that hit Talon 4, that being Metroid Prime, the namesake of the game. This was a good fight, though a lengthy one, as final bosses often are, and afterward, you escape to your ship and leave the planet as Metroid Prime explodes, ending the game. This game was not at all what I was expecting it to be. This game took me from someone who had zero interest in the Metroid franchise whatsoever to now wanting to try all the different Metroid games there are, both 3D and 2D. Genuinely, this is probably in my top 10 games of all time for me, and it has to do with how fun Talon 4 is to explore, the things to find, the control scheme being satisfying, the enemies and bosses being fun to fight, and of course, the music. I haven't mentioned it until now, but the music in this game works incredibly for the different environments, and in general for a sci-fi game such as this. It's also memorable as well. Overall, I'd give Metroid Prime a 9 out of 10, as like I said before, I do wish there was a bit more to explore. What there was to explore though was amazing. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.